Hello and welcome to Get Decked, the video series where I make budget Magic the Gathering decks for your casual games night and to introduce friends and family members to the game. So here we are. It's part one of doing this series for Duskmourn. I've done it before for Thunder Junction and Bloomburrow, so I think we've just established a trend here that every time a new set comes out, I'm going to make 5 of these Get Decked videos, which is absolutely fine. I love doing that. I love looking at new sets and new cards and putting decks together based on the 2-color draft archetypes. So yeah, hope you enjoy the next 5 videos where we look at these Duskmourn decks. So let's dive into it first. The first one is a white-black deck, which we've called Is It Dead? Because it's based all around the black-white draft archetype, which was Reanimator. So yeah, first time I think we've had a Reanimator deck on decked, so that's quite fun. Right, so let's remind ourselves of the rules of Get Decked. So these decks are 60 cards. They're designed for 1v1 games. We're only using Duskmourn cards for all these decks. Nothing even from the Commander sets. We're just the main set, Duskmourn House of Horror. We stick with mostly commons and uncommons, and I think there's actually no rares in this one at all. All the other decks have, I think, a few rares, but this one is actually all commons and uncommons, so it's actually very, very budget friendly. So we've got no cards that cost more than $2 at time of recording. We limit ourselves to 12 different non-land cards for a good mix of variety and consistency. Strong themes, low to mid complexity, so it means a player who's less experienced can pick this up and play it and have a good time, but just because it's a casual deck doesn't mean it has to be weak or bad. So let's take a look at the deck list here. So we've got 21 creatures, 8 sorceries, 3 instants, 4 enchantments, 24 land, and we've got a mana curve off to the side there. So let's dive in, let's take a look at the deck. So firstly, how are we winning? So this is actually a win condition. So as mentioned, it is a reanimator deck. That was a lot of what a lot of the white and black cards in Duskmourn were based around, getting kind of big fat creatures into the graveyard and then reanimating them later. So these are our main reanimation targets on a budget. So we've got 2 Shroud Stompers, 3 double white, double black for a 5/5 with Death Touch. When it enters or attacks, each opponent loses 2 life, you gain 2 life, and you draw a card. So creates a whole bunch of value. I'm going to say now it's weird that it's an elemental. That's just me. It feels weird that the creature type is elemental, but you know, whatever. But yeah, I think this is like a pretty solid creature. Obviously, it is expensive. That's why we're only sort of got 2 of them, because we don't want to completely brick by drawing too many of them. But we have got ways of getting them in the graveyard if we do draw them early and then reanimate them later. But yeah, I really like Shroud Stomper. Actually, it's just doing a lot, isn't it? It's just you know, some life drain. It's drawing a card. It's like got Death Touch, and it's just a big creature. So yeah, really like Shroud Stomper. Right, and then we've got 3 each of the common land cyclers. We've got 3 Shepherding Spirits and 3 Spectral Snatchers. So we had nothing at mana value 2 in the mana curve, but these sort of do the job for us because they've both got well, the Shepherding Spirits have got Plain Cycling, and the Spectral Snatchers have got Swamp Cycling for 2 each, which means you can pay 2, discard it, search your library for the respective land, reveal it, put into your hand, then shuffle. So it does work as sort of a tutor, and also, most importantly, gets them to the graveyard where we want them, so we can reanimate them later. I mean, you know, not impossible to say, you know, if you hold out until turn 6, you just play them as normal. But, you know, if you draw them early, then it's got this nice utility where you can cycle them away and guarantee getting your land, like thin the deck and stuff, and I say, get them in the graveyard where you need them. So Shepherding Spirits, neither of them are particularly like splashy or flashy as cards, but I think they're both fairly solid anyway. So Shepherding Spirits is just a big 4/5 flyer, which is like fine, and Spectral Snatcher is a big 6/5 with ward, discard a card. So whenever it gets targeted, opponent also has to discard a card to be able to affect it with that spell or ability, which is okay. But yeah, they're just big beefy creatures, as I say, with this extra utility of land cycling. So we've also got 4 Patch Playthings. I really like this card. I think it's really cleverly designed, as maybe going a bit too strong into it, but I think it's really fun because it obviously works for 2 of the draft archetypes in the set. So it's 2 and white for a 4/3 double strike, right? Which is amazing, but it enters with 2 -1/- counters if you cast it from your hand. So if you play it normally from your hand, fine, it comes in with 2 counters on it. So it's a 2/1 double strike, which for 3 is still sort of like, that's okay. Obviously, the real money, though, is to reanimate it, and then it's coming as a 4/3 double strike, which is obviously much, much better and makes it a lot more threatening. But I think either way is good. I think, I say, just casting it from your hand on turn 3 as a 2/1 double strike, I think is pretty good anyway. And then if you do reanimate it, then it's obviously much more threatening. So yeah, really, really like Patch Plaything, which is why we've got 4 of them here. And then we've also got 3 Possessed Goat. I cannot talk today. Possessed Goat, 1 white mana for a 1/1. It has 3 discard a card, put 3 +1/+1 counters on it, and it becomes a black demon in addition to its other cards and types. Activate that only once. So again, this is another kind of like way we've got of discarding cards, get them into the graveyard so we can reanimate them later. It becomes sort of like a decently big threat itself, goes up to being a 4/4. Yeah, I quite like Possess Go. I thought it would be a nice early game play potentially. Right, so now we're going to talk about what helps us win. So this is the actual reanimation part of the deck, so we can actually get the stuff that's in our graveyard out and cheat it in a little bit sooner than it's meant to be. So we've got 3 Fanatic of the Harrowing, so 3 in a black for a 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, each player discards a card, and if you discard a card, then you also draw a card. So I quite like this. It does feel maybe a little... this is maybe modern Magic talking. Like 4 mana feels a little expensive for this. Maybe I'd expect this maybe at 3, and if it's then a 2/1, I think it'd be okay. But it comes in, does a everyone does a discard, which benefits you obviously because then you want something in your graveyard so you can reanimate it later, and then you also draw a card if you've discarded it. So yeah, I don't mind Fanatic of the Harrowing. It's okay, but I would definitely welcome suggestions on what could go here instead, because like it's okay, but I'm not completely sold on it. Maybe. Anyway, and then we've got 3 Valgavoth's Faithful, so 1 black mana for 1/1, and you can pay 3 in black, sacrifice it, and he does Zombify, just returns a creature from graveyard to the battlefield, activate only as a sorcery. I like this ability being on a 1/1. Obviously, it's quite vulnerable in just being a 1/1, but it's a really good ability. Not much to say about that. It's just a reanimation spell for when we need it, and obviously you could do it if you've got 5 mana. You just cast it and then immediately pop the ability if needed. So yeah, it's all right. Right, and then the actual reanimation spell. So we've got 2 Rite of the Moth. So 1 a white and double black. You return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it, which is something we've started doing quite recently with a lot of reanimation spells, these finality counters. So basically, if something with a finality counter on it would die, it gets exiled instead, which is fine. It stops you looping it all the time. And it's got flashback as well, which means if you do discard this to, say, Possess Goat or the Fanatic of the Harrowing, anything like that, it's not such a big deal because then you can still cast it from your graveyard and it's not that much more expensive at 6. So yeah, it's okay. So, and also the fact you could just cast, you get 2 casts out of it, so it's okay having only, I think, 2 of these in the deck. But yeah, Rite of the Moth is just very straightforward reanimation spell, isn't it? And then we've got 3 Emerge from the Cocoon, which is a little more expensive. So 4 and a white, return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, you gain 3 life. So it's a lot more straightforward, doesn't mess around with the finality counters. It is obviously a bit more expensive, but a little bit of life gain as well is quite nice. Especially if we're playing this quite slow, grindy deck, I suppose. So it could be vulnerable to taking damage in the early game, maybe while you're trying to get set up. And then 3 Commune with Evil. I've always liked the Commune with Nature effects that like green has, where you look at a certain number of cards from the top of your library and then you pick a certain number out of them, you discard the rest. So it's nice to see black get this effect actually. So it's 2 in black. You look at the top 4 cards of your library, put 1 into your hand, the rest into your graveyard, which is for the most part where you're probably going to want most of the things in the deck anyway. And then you gain 3 life. So again, nice little bit of life gain there. So obviously the ideal play here is you play Commune with Evil. You lock the top 4 cards, you keep a reanimation spell, and you dump something that you want to reanimate. So yeah, that's obviously the ideal play with it. And then we're going to talk about what stops them winning. So this just ways we can stop our opponent's plans from going off. So it's just like removal options, stuff like that. So we've got 3 live or die. So this is technically another reanimation spell, but it also has the ability just to destroy a creature. So it's a nice little bit of utility whenever you need it at any point in the game. It's an instant speed as well, so an instant speed reanimation I think is quite nice. So 3 double black, you either return a creature from your graveyard to the battlefield or you destroy a creature with no other restrictions. So yeah, I think this is quite nice at 5. Just the it is maybe again a little expensive, but I don't know, I think like 5 mana for an instant speed reanimation is okay. Obviously the creature kill side is a little expensive, but yeah, I think it's okay. It's just nice to have the utility of it, I suppose. And then as a more straightforward removal option, we've got 4 Trapped in the Screen. So this is basically Banishing Light or O-Ring, but it's got Ward too. So yeah, you just exile something for as long as you control Trapped in the Screen. When Trapped in the Screen is destroyed, it comes back, but it's going to be hard to get rid of Trapped in the Screen because it's got Ward too, so it's harder for removal effects to target it and destroy it. So yeah, I like Trapped in the Screen. It's quite nice, I think. It's just a more traditional removal option here. Then we're going to quickly talk about the mana base. So we've got 4 Neglected Manas. So it enters tapped unless a player has 13 or less life. I've seen a lot of kind of nicknames floating around for this cycle of lands. I've seen Unlucky Lands, obviously, used before, or just 13 land, which I think is Obviously not as inspired. I quite like the nickname I've seen used, which is Friday Lands, as in like Friday the 13th. So that's what I'm going to call them going forward, the Friday Lands. But yeah, enters tapped unless the player has 13 or less life, and it taps to give you white or black. So it's a nice, I think it's a really fun little spin on this usual kind of common dual land. And then 10 plains and 10 swamps. So we're also going to talk about a potential option here because I really want to talk about it, and I couldn't bring myself to include it in the main deck, but I just wanted to float the idea because I know someone would mention it in the comments otherwise. As Doomsday Excruciator as a potential inclusion in the deck as a reanimation target, because yeah, it's like it's 6 black mana, so like in a dual color deck, that's going to be a real struggle to cast it, but it is like a fearsomely good reanimation target because then if you can get it into your graveyard, reanimate it, you skip this whole kind of its drawback of you exile almost your entire library. Well, I mean, obviously it makes your opponent exile their library as well. But if you can get this down, you cheat it in with a reanimation spell, then it's a big 6/6 flyer, and it's giving you a second draw every turn. So yeah, like I couldn't bring myself to bring it main deck because the triple the 6 black mana like scared me off from it. But by all means, if you want to like experiment with it, because I mean that's the thing with reanimation decks, isn't it? Usually playing kind of off color things. The intent is never to cast this normally. You're always cheating in this into play. So maybe I should have included it, but I don't know. I'll see what you think. Like, leave a comment down below what you think about it. And in general, just leave a comment down below if you've got any other thoughts about the deck. You think there's cards that I should have included in here, things that you change, anything like that. Do you like a reanimation strategy? Like, I'd love to know if you stick a comment down below. But I'll be back next time. I'm gonna carry on with these Duskmourn budget decks. So hope you join me for the next one. But until then, thanks for watching and listening, and have a great day.